Now we will have a fireside chat with Eric and the ambassador to talk about how are we going to feed the world, show leadership, and what solutions have we got to offer. You've been a congressman in the 60s, in the 70s. You've been the mayor of Atlanta in the 80s. You've been a lifelong civil rights advocate. You worked together with Dr. Martin Luther King. And perhaps lesser known is your passion for new innovations, your international outlook, and also that you've been a major advocate for new innovations from the Netherlands on water management and agriculture. And you're also very outspoken on feeding the world. Ambassador, may I ask you to present your vision on how we should move forward with this most important topic?
Thank you very much. And for me, this is a blessing to see the power, the personality, the intelligence, and the dedication in this room. But I want to let you know how far back I go on this. My daughter-in-law is sitting over here, Angelica, and my granddaughter, her number one daughter, his name is Abigail. Abigail was named by me and my son for Abigail Adams, who went with John Adams to Holland before the War for Independence, and the first loan for the United States of America was orchestrated by the Adams family. Now, I read a lot about John Adams. He was our second president, wrote the draft of the Constitution for the state of Massachusetts, which Thomas Jefferson evolved into the Constitution that we have nowadays. But knowing his personality and his old Puritan temperament, he never could have gotten a nickel if it hadn't been for Abigail. And Abigail, I think, was the person that helped the Dutch to see the importance of the United States of America in the whole world of things. And they gave us our first loans. I grew up in New Orleans, and New Orleans is another one of the cities that is 7 feet below sea level. And I was born in 1932. In 1936, I can remember they talked about it so much that the Dutch had bailed out New Orleans, that there was a network of pumps that kept New Orleans dry, even though it was 7 feet below sea level. And I heard my daddy and all my relatives were just praising the Dutch all the time. He was a dentist, and we had to ride up the Mississippi River because during the Depression, he fixed people's teeth for free and was provided by the government with a trailer that allowed him to do dentistry all up and down the Mississippi River in New Orleans. So I have grown up with the Dutch. When I met the lady that was my first wife, she won a fellowship to go to Europe in 1953 to work with the Church of the Brethren to help prepare food, care for young people, and to build refugee camps for people coming over from the Eastern Zone. I had decided I wanted to marry her, even though she didn't want to marry me at the time. And I hitched up enough money and I followed her there. And that was my first visit to Holland as a 20-year-old 1953. So this is not new. And I pointed out to the group earlier that this happened. We happened to have 12 people in that little room. And I reminded them that this is the weekend just a few days before Easter Sunday. And whether you are religious or spiritual or Christian or whatever, there's a sense about the presence of God entering humankind and bringing us together to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, and set at liberty those who are oppressed. And so everybody was talking about making money, and they should. But I never made any money. And I've gotten pretty well without it. Money, if you're black in America, gets you in real trouble if you make too much of it. And I could have made a lot of it, but I was averse to the risk. But in there, I reminded them that it's all right for them to make money. Dutch have always made money, good money. And this was Easter weekend. And so I think there's something, for me, very religious about this gathering, whether you want to see it or not. God does not give a damn what you think. But while we are yet sinners, He has gathered us and somehow made it possible for us to sustain this planet with peace on earth, goodwill toward men, women, and children, and part of that is feeding the hungry and healing the sick. Now, that's why I'm here. You're here for other reasons that are just as legitimate. But it was important for me to establish this Dutch, well, it's almost a Dutch Andrew Young connection. Because another thing was that I was a young preacher and invited to a church conference in Geneva, Switzerland. And I'm sitting there with a group of young clergymen, and they're getting ready to serve Holy Communion in the John Calvin Cathedral in Geneva. And they suddenly realized that everybody serving communion was white. And they looked at me and they said, "Aren't you an ordained minister?" I said, "Yeah, I guess so." They said, "Would you come up here and please serve communion with us?" And so they put me on one of those fancy robes and made me look like I was holy. And the first group that came down the aisle to receive communion was a young teenager by the name of Beatrix, who they said was the Princess of the Netherlands and her ladies in waiting. And I was shaking and trembling. She came here in 1990 when we were bidding for the Olympics, and I asked her if she remembered it, and she was generous, and she said she did. But I can never forget it, but I've been running into all of these connections. And for me, that has a spiritual meaning. Doesn't have to be your meaning. The profit motive is very, very respectable. But in order to feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, set at liberty those who are oppressed, you have to have socioeconomic institutions. And I like the Dutch because they have blended together the best of these ideals. And they're not pompous and holy and righteous. They're good folk. And my good friend Herman von Hoff, I found here when I became mayor in 1981. And in good Dutch fashion, he showed up and happened in my first term as mayor to build 2 Ritz-Carlton hotels and a 191 Peachtree building. Those were the first major investments in Atlanta as a modern city of the South. That was pre-Olympics, pre-everything else, when nobody else could see what Atlanta could become. That was even before the airport. Herman put Dutch money here. I understand they also doubled it because the Japanese liked what they built. And then I said, what are you going to do with this profit that you reaped in Atlanta? And he said, well, we're going to help out the Mexicans. And the Mexican, whatever it is, peso, was 40 cents on a dollar. And he bought up a whole bunch of 40 cents on a dollar paper. As if somebody told him that Bill Clinton was going to have to bail out Mexico. And he sent back $1 for every 40 cents he invested. Now, if that is your association with the Dutch, don't question it. Go with the flow. These folk know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. They're nice people. And that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm really grateful that all of you came here, because I turned 90 last week. And I don't know about you all. Maybe you don't worry about things like this. But when I read my Bible, it says, if you want to get into heaven, you got to feed the hungry. And so one of the things we have a foundation for, because we realize that feeding 9 to 10 billion people is not going to be done in a hot, scorched earth. It's going to require more water. It's going to require more technology. It's going to require more experimentation and money. And all of that is everything we need to save this planet, practically, in terms of food and medicine, is represented by your education, your faith, your companies, your technology, your research. And I hope you look back on this day as an important day in your life, because I think this is a day where we can make a difference on the planet Earth. Just the people in this room. God bless you.
But I first want to thank the ambassador for sharing our history. I actually learned quite a bit myself. I haven't been around that long. Happy birthday. I was at your intimate birthday party in the World Congress Center with a few thousand people. So I wasn't able to say hello myself, but happy birthday. And thank you very much for your passion and your leadership at 90 years old and being an inspiration to all of us. Thank you. Eric, this will be hard for you. But I'm going to ask you. The ambassador has been very generous with saying what we as Dutch can achieve and what we have done for the city in terms of sharing our water management technology, on agriculture, feeding the world. You're not yet in heaven, but how can you help us, based with your association? You represent the entire greenhouse industry, horticulture in the Netherlands. You've been a farmer yourself. You're passionate. It's your life's work to work on greenhouses and sustainable food production. We've been on the road for days, and he's been passionate at 8 o'clock in the morning and 8 o'clock at night, talking about greenhouses. What can you do to fulfill this mission, and what can you do for the U.S. Southeast?
And let me warn you, what you say might depend on whether or not you get into heaven.
Okay. Yeah, but this is almost impossible to give any answer on those questions. And I hope I will not see heaven that soon. Yeah, it's always a story about, and that's the history of the Netherlands, the businessman and the priest. And there is a lot of books written about it. When you go back to the history of the Netherlands and you go back to the grandfather of Beatrix, you end up by King Willem I. And then you are somewhere in the 1680s. And he had to deal with the Netherlands. He was literally outside the Netherlands, as we see the Netherlands as it is today. He was outside, but he brought the nation together. And a nation as the Netherlands was very, very difficult. Many different provinces, as we call them. Maybe you call them here states, but we call them provinces. 7 in total at that time, and also part Belgium. So give a little clue on how it was. And he really tried to gather them together. But it was also the time that the church came in. Catholic, Lutheran, and so on. It was a hard time. There was a lot of fight, really fight, between the different groups. About what? I was reading his memories. He had no clue why people are fighting with each other. Because of the religion or about food. But it was all the time up to 1700 fights and fights again. It looks similar to today. Why are we fighting? I do not understand. This man, King Willem I, has one passion: bringing people together. Without religion, when you look at him and ask what kind of religion he had at that time, hardly impossible to understand. He was following his own gut and heart feeling, or heart in that time, not judging anybody. And that's still what I have witnessed also this last autumn when I met our new king, Willem-Alexander, during a visit in the United Emirates. Because he has also a passion for food. But it was about the religion part. But in the same time of King number 1, there was also a trade part. The rich people, the traders. And he was fighting also against those ones. Because he said, the money belongs to the people, to everybody. And he was the founder of the Netherlands. And it is mostly similar to where we are today. Sometimes some people have too much, some people have too less. The goal of our association as Dutch Greenhouse Delta, that I may represent today with my proud members, is to feed the world. And of course, sometimes we stand up as a businessman to try to make money, of course. But we talk also a lot about how can we feed the world, how can we contribute to a better life. We do it around the globe, in China, India, Gulf region, but also here. And sometimes I'm surprised. It's a very warm nation. There is a lot of wealth, there is a lot of possibilities. But I also have to say that I sometimes see people homeless. I was a little bit surprised, shocked this morning to see too many homeless people in a nice city just 400 miles from here. I was surprised in a country like this that we found a lot of homeless people. Is that different from the Netherlands? No, it's still the same. And we also have to feed those people, the homeless, and all the others that are around the globe. So our mission, and my personal mission, is help to feed the world together. Because only together we can feed the world with healthy nutrition, food, every day. Because that is what our kids deserve from all of you today and tomorrow.
Thank you, Eric. Maybe you could say a few words about how... Yeah, please, you're welcome. Maybe you could share with the group what technologies we have that can actually make it happen, and why it's profitable. As the ambassador said, you can also make money with it, but it's also there for a reason and the right cause to feed people. What can we offer?
Yeah, what can we offer? All kinds of technologies. Technologies to grow vegetables, as you can see there, bell peppers or tomatoes or whatever, and also flowers. We can grow them everywhere. We can do it in Alaska. We can do it here down south. We have technology that can, let's say, manage every climate, but also can grow in very salty soil. Basically, we have that knowledge, but we are lacking also a lot of knowledge. I visited very nice R&D centers recently, or last week, and I was surprised about the knowledge what's there. So we have a lot of knowledge. We connect the knowledge with each other, and knowledge will be our driver for the future. To be more innovative. We have to innovate to overcome all the challenges. We have the knowledge about energy. We have the knowledge about robotics, climate control. I can go on for hours. That is what we call technical innovation. But more important is the non-technical innovations. I would like to ask you all, please review your business model. Review your business model, because that is non-technical innovation. How are you able to share more pieces with the other? How can you build other business models and share your profit with the one that needed to be more innovative? And that is non-technical innovation. There is written a lot about it. I heard mostly only about AI, about robotics, and so on. But mind, and it is written in many scientific studies, technology will not a success without a human. So please invest in each other and in humans. That's what we can offer together.
Thank you very much, Eric. For the purposes of time and to let people also mingle, we will close off the fireside chat in a sec. I enjoyed it. By the way, I should say I'm Laurens van Doeveren and not Oprah. But it would be good if we can mingle and talk about horticulture and why we can produce so much with so little input, because that's what the planet needs eventually. And hopefully we can find new partners here in the United States Southeast to produce a lot more or much more available land in a much better climate than we've got back home. So we're not just exporting, but also sharing our technology to sustain local and sustainable food production here in this important region and in the United States. Thank you all for being here. Please have a drink. Before we finish off, I want to give the mic to the ambassador for his final remarks, if he likes. Yeah, you do, I guess. And then we'll have a drink together, and hopefully we can build new partnerships at this reception. From my side, thank you very much for being at the home of the Netherlands, and I hope to see you all after our fireside chat. Thank you.
And I'd just like to say that as rich and wonderful as this country is, there are pockets of poverty that are also on very beautiful turf. There is almost from Savannah all the way over to the middle of Texas. They're about to build an expressway through there. We got 20 and we got 10. They're about to build 14 right along where Highway 80 is. But that will open up tens of thousands of acres of land with a very similar climate to Atlanta. And I'm not prophesying, but people are getting too crowded in too many cities. And there is going to be, I think, a return to moderate-sized living. And moderate-sized living that can sustain itself with technology and the export of food is going to be where the future is determined. And so I'm really extending to you an invitation to where to plant some of your money. And I assure you it won't flood.
Thank you very much. Excellent closing words.